A lot of health systems outsource some or all of their revenue cycle workload. That's great, but it brings up a few questions. Which vendors are doing the best job? Which ones aren't? Should you outsource more CBO work or do more in-house? Which collection agency is driving the better yield? That's why we created VisIQuate Vendor Performance Analytics, VPA, to give you real answers to all those questions and more. VPA gives you total insight into the performance of your outsourced revenue cycle vendors. Using your own in-house data, we measure true performance of your vendors and their impact on your bottom line. How they're impacting yield, days outstanding, bad debt expense, and much more. You can also compare your vendors side by side to get a sense of their relative performance. At the top of the dashboard is the Revenue Outsource Planner. It lets you perform scenario analysis for hypothetical assignments to vendors. Using 2 years or more of historical assignment and payment data, we generate projections on how your vendors will perform given the different scenarios that you set. Using sliders to set thresholds for age and balance, you create hypothetical cohorts of accounts to assign to each vendor. You can see the overall portion of your accounts and the total charges that your cohort represents. You can also see the projected average number of days it will take to collect on these accounts if you assign them to this vendor, and how quickly your internal team will likely turn around the remaining unassigned accounts. Beneath that, there's a projection of the collection rate you can expect to see over time, based on the values that you've set with the sliders. Again, you can see projections on collection performance for both your vendors and your in-house team. Over on the right, you can see the predicted final outcome from your vendor, your in-house staff, and the overall combination of the two. The next widget shows you how your vendors have performed over time. Let's say I want to see how all my vendors performed on the accounts that I assigned to them in July of last year. I'll set my assignment date range from July 1st to the 31st. I can see what was assigned, how much was withdrawn, and how much got paid. Let's compare vendor 2 to vendor 3. I can see that I assigned $54 million to vendor 2 and $20 million to vendor 3. To compare apples to apples, I'll switch to percent view. It looks like vendor 2 ultimately collected on 60% of assigned balances, where vendor 3 only hit 50%. That's good to know before I have my next meeting with vendor 3. What if I want to really fine-tune performance? I can use this widget, Vendor Analytics of Closed Accounts. It breaks down the performance of each vendor to show me how they did on a payer-by-payer basis. Here are all my vendors and the average number of days they took to collect from each payer. I can see that vendor 3 got paid faster than vendor 2 when they were collecting from payer A. But it looks like vendor 2 outperformed vendor 3 for the overall collection rate. So if I need cash fast, vendor 3 might be a better bet. But if I'm focused more on maximizing my net revenue in the long run, I should probably lean more on vendor 2. I can also switch this widget to a quadrant view. Now each payer is represented by a color and each vendor by a shape. The vertical axis shows me the percent of balances they collected, and the horizontal axis shows me the average days to collect. Looks like vendor 3 does well for both these metrics when they are collecting from payer A. I want to get paid more and more quickly, so I should definitely think about shifting this chunk from vendor 2 to vendor 3. Next up is a scatter plot, showing me time to pay as compared to the payment amount. Looking at payer A here, it seems like I might have my vendor assignment threshold set too early. I'm giving this vendor a lot of accounts that appear to be easily collectible. Clearly, I need to move out my date threshold so that I keep more of this in-house and stop paying my vendor for this easy stuff. The last widget, Current Assigned Inventory, gives me a true and current count of every account I've assigned out to vendors. I can focus on one vendor at a time or go for the combined total of assignments. The visual is broken out by age and payer. On the right, I get the major metrics of average age, number of accounts, and the aggregate assignment in dollars. I also get a spotlight on the oldest account in any inventory I'm viewing. Those are a lot of benefits, all because Vendor Performance Analytics combines data analytics, visual science, and predictive algorithms to give you a lot of insights into the past, present, and future performance of your revenue cycle vendors. Those insights make it possible to identify where one vendor may be outperforming another, and to even analyze any hypothetical reassignments. And of course, all the attributes and metrics that power this dashboard are also available to you in VisIQuate's Numerical reporting engine and in Visual Insights, our drag and drop dashboard creator. Alerts, collaboration, enterprise search, and all the other powerful capabilities that you get with all VisitQuate solutions come standard. VisitQuate Vendor Performance Analytics, a great new way to improve BPO productivity. Get in touch to know more.